With the upward trend we're seeing in Zenless Zone Zero's content offerings following the release of version 2.1, many are looking forward to what the ZZZ team has to offer as the game continues to improve and evolve. The version 2.2 livestream is just around the corner, as well as the reveal of its content offerings and new additions. Today, I want to talk about the things I want to see out of the game version update, both big and small. Starting out with the story content of the patch, focusing on the new Eridu Defense Force following their brief cameo in 2.1 with new characters like Isolde, Seed, and Orphean Mangus, I would actually like to see more screen time given to the Soldier Zero variation of Ambi. We haven't seen much of the burger-loving super soldier following her somewhat brief time in the spotlight in her associated character story, and somewhat out-of-place appearance in the main story content, both found in version 1.6. I've stated before in a previous video of the things I liked about ZZZ, with one of them being how characters are regularly given opportunities to make appearances in the story thanks to their association with a faction, and by extension, said faction giving characters a web of people to bounce off of and build off of each other. As of right now, an overwhelming majority of Ambi's screen time is still relegated to her ties to the Cunning Hares. However, I hope they get the chance to do more with her military background in the future. Of course, there is the matter of her affiliation with Soldier 11, even after the events of her story missions, that could compromise the story if followed up incorrectly. But with that being said, if they want to keep using the Silver Soldier in story appearances, they'll need to figure out how to handle that plot thread at some point anyway, so why not address it sooner rather than later? I would also like to briefly mention of some form of confirmation of Isolde becoming a playable character or not down the line would also be a small win for ZZZ players as well, especially for those who wanted her from the moment they saw her in version 2.1. Moving on to combat content, I would actually like to see more humanoid enemy variants added to the game. That's not to say we haven't already had new additions to humanoid enemies, with the Exultist faction making appearances in combat now, but it's a different story when we look at the other established enemy factions in the game. Hollow Raider or Bandit-esque enemies haven't seen any new humanoid foes since version 1.2 with the Vanquisher's biker gang enemies, and as far as the Rebel soldiers are concerned, we had the Specialized Assault Bomber in version 1.6. Aside from obviously adding completely new enemies from the aforementioned two factions, another option on the table would be to give a boss variant to the Intimidator Hollow Raider enemy. We've had the Enforcer variation since the launch of the game, so it seems somewhat out of place for his shotgun-wielding brother to be left out to dry for this long. Next, let's talk about the possibility of new explorable regions. Up until this point, all of the explorable areas that have been added are either entirely focused on industrial-focused aesthetics or massive laboratories, with only one area being marked as a residential apartments, but I wouldn't blame you for mistaking them as more industrial buildings. To be fair, all of the current exploration of the Lemian Hollow has been relegated to Aerospace City, so there's still the possibility to create a wider variety of locales and environments on the island the Hollow resides in. There could be new locations that were former sites of tourist attractions, suburban residential areas, or even areas that haven't had any man-made structures built and are still home to local wildlife, or more likely, completely overtaken by the miasma, resulting in a sort of on-land underwater environment to give a greater sense of scale to just how much influence miasma has in the Hollow. To close out what I want to see from version 2.2, I would like to see a big content drop for Hollow Zero. More specifically, I'd like to see a continuation of the plotline of the unique ethereal enemy, Hoba, that was name-dropped in the special investigation in version 2.0. I would also hope that we get drive disc loadouts as well, as ZZZ continues to come out with new gear options for characters, some of which can be direct upgrades for certain characters. It would be nice for players to not have to fiddle around with swapping gear in the event that multiple characters can get use out of a single, well-built set. And with that, I have said all I really wanted to about what I would like to see out of version 2.2 of Zenless Zone Zero. It won't be much longer till we find out what's in store for the next patch, so we'll just need to wait a little longer to see what the ZZZ team has in store. But until then, this has been Arikado Zodan, and I'm clocking out.